We were yet to take the new Caravan on a off-grid camping trip and test it out just to make sure that everything works, ready for our up and coming Northern Territory and Western Australia trip very shortly. So it's on this weekend, or this period, that we thought we'd go up to Mannum and camp on the side of the river, and just to make sure that everything works as it should. So join us at Mannum. I'm Mick, and this is Sally. Together we've been caravanning Australia since the 1980s, and more recently we started to put the videos together just to show you some of what we see out there. There's a lot to see in Australia, and we hope you enjoy what we have here to show you. You can follow us on our trips via the following social media platforms. With Mannum being approximately 100 kilometres from home, it was the ideal location to take the caravan and do a bit of off-grid camping, just to make sure that everything in the van worked as it should. Travelling out through Gawler, this allowed us to avoid most of the hilly country on the eastern side of Adelaide, and it wasn't very long and we were soon in Mannum. There are two ferries that operate within Mannum, and that allows you to cross the River Murray, and to use these ferries to go across, there is no charge to the user at all. It's quite an easy process to use these ferries. Once your vehicle approaches the ferry, you'll be guided as to which side of the ferry that you will park your vehicle, and it's a matter of driving there until you're told when to stop and sit there and enjoy the ride. Once our ferry crossing is complete, we get across to the other side, and when we leave the ferry, we'll drive up over the riverbank and we'll come to the end here. We'll do a right-hand turn, and that will take us down to the Bolto Camping Reserve. It's only a very short run down to the camping reserve, and once you get there, you go down the left-hand side, or that's the way we normally do, and you'll leave the toilet block here on your right hand side, the grey building, as we approach it, and then it's just a matter of driving around and finding a suitable spot that you're happy to camp at. It was late on the Sunday morning when we arrived here, so we've still got a lot of the weekend warriors that are camping here, and as the day progressed they packed up and made their way home, but quite a crowd over that period. G'day everyone, and we're at Bolto Reserve. Now that's a low-cost camping area on the River Murray here at Mannum in South Australia, and the reason that we've come here, and we're here for 3 nights, and that's to give the caravan a good run off-grid so we know how we can pace ourselves. Shouldn't be any problem, just more battery power than what we had in the old van, and even though it's got more battery power, it's got a little bit less solar than what perhaps it really should have, but once again, more solar than what we had in the old van, so we'll see how we go. The Bolto Reserve is a reasonably small campground, but it does offer camping right on the river. The campground is a paid campground, and the nights that we were there on this trip, it was $10 per night, and that was for a 24-hour permit, and those permits can be purchased here at the back of the toilet. There is a machine, and that's the only way that we're aware of that you can actually pay for your camping permit. No doubt during the weekend there'd be a lot of water traffic up here, water sports, but for the time that we were there, very little indeed. During our 3 nights that we were here, the traffic came and went each day, but for most nights there was a reasonable number of campers here. Monday started out to be very overcast with heavy cloud, but darkened things up a bit, but never mind. One thing we did see, and that was the Murray Princess come in from its recent cruise down the River Murray. The Murray Princess is the biggest inland paddle wheeler in the southern hemisphere, and it's quite a majestic looking boat as we watch it come into berth. Time to put the drone back on the ground and go for a walk down to the ferry, across the river, and then walk down into the main street of Mannum. Easy walking on this road. It's not a very busy road, it only services the back of the shacks here, and very few cars on it in the time that we were there. Once we arrive at the ferry, it's just a matter of the vehicles going on first, and then as pedestrians we walk down afterwards. Once everyone is on the ferry, the wheels of motion start turning and we make our way across to the other side of the river. There are a number of water vessels that you can do cruises on when you're at Mannum, and the one we're looking at now is a paddle steamer Marian, and it's a fully restored heritage vessel that was built back in 1897. Located in the main street near the Marian is the information centre, and there you will find the Randall Dry Dock, and that was originally built in 1876, and it's the only remaining dock of this type on the River Murray now, and it was once used for repairing paddle steamers and barges. The shop that we're in now is called the Butter Factory, and it's one that we can't go past without stopping and walking around and just having a browse. There's so many old wares and glasses and the likes in there, it's just fascinating to look at. The cloud was still hanging around, and it's still reasonably early on the Monday morning that we're walking up here, so not a lot of vehicles and people in the street, but with that cloud there it kept the temperature down. Not only can you enjoy a game of bowls here, but you've also got the elevated view of the River Murray to look at the same time. It was when we arrived here at Lovell's Bakery, we thought we'd go in and have a cup of coffee and an apricot scroll and apricot Danish, and with river views like this while we're drinking our coffee, it was a very pleasant environment to be in. From the bakery, it was time to make our way down to the Marian Reserve, and this is one area that has recovered remarkably well since the last flood. When the boats are not out sailing on the Murray, the Marian Reserve is where you'll find the Proud Mary and the Murray Princess tied up. The white ute seen here is reversing up to the Murray Princess to collect material that he used there. I think he was a band player or a musician, and no, the film's not running in reverse as you may have first thought. When these vessels are tied up here at the wharf, you can get very close to them, and you need to be careful of the ropes that come out and retain the vessels against the side of the Murray, but it's an advantage to be able to walk so close to such beautiful vessels. Should you ever come down to the Marian Reserve for a visit, it's worth having a look at the flood level indicator post here that Sally's walking up to, and that's got all the levels of the recorded flooding within the area. As we start to make our way back towards the ferry to return back to the caravan, we thought we would have a look at the caravan park, but we did notice so many coffee shops that you can sit down and enjoy something to eat and a hot cup of coffee within Mannum itself. Been a long time since we've had a van in the Mannum Caravan Park, and a lot of change has been done, of course, and a lot of that was promoted, I surmise, by the big flood that they've just had, and we thought we'd go in and have a look and just see what those changes were. Murray Princess now returning back to Marian Reserve after being out on a cruise. The caravan park has a very attractive waterfront where the caravan park and cabins meet down onto the riverfront itself. As we were walking around the caravan park, we noticed that the park wasn't full, but by no means was it empty either. There was a good number of caravanners parked up inside the park. We've always referred to these birds here as water hens when we've been up in Mannum. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm sure someone will correct me, but yeah, very big number of them about. The Mannum Caravan Park has a huge number of cabins, and I'm sure that there would be one there for everyone's budget. As the day progressed, the cloud burnt off, and we weren't back at the caravan very long, and we heard a few water vessel horns going, and it was Proud Mary was leaving the Marian Reserve and off on a cruise. I'll leave a link in the video description below that will enable you to have a look at all these water vessels and boats, as well as the cruises that they offer. As with any vessel or ski boat or water vessel of any kind, they need to do the right things as they approach the ferries when they want to go from one side of a ferry to the other. Shortly after the Proud Mary had sailed, the Murray Princess also pulled out and started to go downstream and not upstream as the Proud Mary did. Unbeknownst to us, it went down a short distance and then did a left-hand turn and turned around and started to sail upstream. We don't know why, but when we're sitting back at the caravan park, we looked out to the river, and here it is going upstream. With the excitement of the Proud Mary and the Murray Princess leaving, it was time to sit back and have a coffee while Sally did a bit of stitchery. The afternoon went by quietly before we enjoyed a nice sunset as it set across the river. From a nice sunset the evening before, we woke to a foggy start the next morning. It was foggy out over dry land, but unfortunately none of that misty fog that you like to see above the river water. It was the later part of February that we were up here on this trip, so the days were warm, and today was no exception. It was going to be a very hot day today, so before the heat came in, we went out and had a look at Mannum waters. The Mannum Waters Marina, not only is it a housing development and residential area, it's also a marina for a lot of the hire houseboat companies. As well as it being a marina for the hire houseboat companies, you can have private moorings there if you own a houseboat. Sometimes when you watch a YouTube channel and some of the videos on that channel, you ask yourself, well, I wonder when these videos were recorded. Just for the information for those that don't know, and for those that don't look at the video description down below very often or at all, since the beginning of 2024, all the videos that are on our channel have got a date on it. If you go down in the video description, you'll see what day they were recorded and put up onto YouTube. Our last day was a very hot one and not very much activity in the campground at all, but plenty of sunshine, and it gave us a good test for our solar system on the van. Once the sun had set on a hot day, it was nice to sit out and enjoy a cool breeze and view the water reflections as we looked across the river. G'day everyone, and that brings us to the end of this video. It seems that everything that we wanted regarding off-grid camping worked out well, battery management worked out well, and so did everything else. So until that next video goes up, you take care and look after yourself.